come here to chew bubble gum and kick ass. And I'm all out of bubble.
Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, children of all ages, welcome to the Bloviating Zeppelin's Berserk Bobcat Saloon radio show, live and direct on the SHR Media Network, right here in Studio 5F. We're actually in a studio. The SHR Media Network is really a network, and it's actually in a studio 2 miles from the veritable belly of the beast, broadcasting behind enemy lines in occupied California. Yes, the locus of evil of the entire West Coast, certainly, quite possibly, the entire United Snakes of America, maybe even the planet. The capital of the state of California, 2 miles west, that way, where the stench of sulfur and brimstone and death and depression and dismay settles like a bad cat box over the entire city of Sacramento and the entire state. Its influence felt far and wide. And we exist as pushback to the evil that exists in the state capital. Well, I just blew through all my music. You got to belly up to the bar. We've kept your seat. Mary Brockman's seat we've kept. That's certainly true. And it's great to see you back. Dink is going to be our bartender tonight. She pours with the best of them, and the lava lamp is in fact lighted to my left, your right, as you can see right here. And I mention that because if you're listening on the Redadio Daddy-O, you're listening on shrmedia.com, just for the sides of your face, your ossicles. In your ossicles, we hear this cry of glory, bulbous, from the furthest sights of Lick Observatory. In the earlobe of an otter, every parent, son, and daughter can be bulbous tonight. And here we are, live and direct. And also, you can listen on the SHR Media Facebook page. You can listen on the SHR Media YouTube channel if you want to see stuff like this. Tonight, it is Tuesday, April 3rd already. The year of our Lord, 2018, and our guest tonight is going to be Melanie Colette. She is the money diva right here, live and direct on the SHR Media Network. You can hear her. Great personality, knowledgeable about all sorts of cash, business dealings. And tonight, I suspect I'm going to have the luxury of speaking to her for almost, but not quite the full hour. Maybe at least 45 minutes or so. We're going to talk about Bitcoin. I want to talk about a cashless society and what that means. And while I'm at it, if I can get the topic in, perhaps we're going to talk about a guaranteed income. And what is that? Well, wouldn't you like to have a guaranteed income? What's a guaranteed income, BZ? Well, you know, like good socialists, it's an income the government bestows upon you. And what do I have to do to labor for this income, BZ? And the answer is, in an idyllic world, nothing. So, hey, if you're a good Gen Zer or a millennial or just a free cheeser, or Antifa, etc., socialist, communist, any form of ist, leftist, wouldn't you like to have more MOAR free cheese? Everyone would. Some strange things occurred today before Melanie gets here. I do have to, and I customarily start the show out with this because I tried to find some good things to talk about. I like to bring something good to the beginning of the show, and I did find one thing. Let's go over here. Because it happens to be about a personality on TV, and people didn't give up. You'll understand in just a minute.
It's time for happy stories and good times.
This, oddly enough, is out of Variety magazine, which is kind of weird. I expected to see it on Fox News, but I kind of understand why it isn't. But the headline, to me, is positive. It's this: Fox News says Laura Ingraham will return. Well, what happened to Laura Ingraham? Laura Ingraham will return to the Fox News channel despite a spate of recent defections by advertisers from the program she hosts there each weeknight. We cannot and will not allow voices to be censored by agenda-driven intimidation efforts, said Jack Abernathy, co-president of the 21st Century Fox-owned cable outlet. In a statement, we look forward to having Laura Ingraham back hosting her program next Monday when she returns from spring vacation with her children. The note is unusual for a corporate executive to issue on behalf of a program host, but the situation swirling around Ingraham is anything but normal. She announced Friday on her 10 p.m. program, The Ingraham Angle, that she would take a planned vacation, even as scrutiny of her program intensified and more sponsors announced they're removing their ads out of the show. And perhaps you might be saying, BZ, what happened? Why this big kerfuffle over Laura Ingraham, whose show I occasionally watch? She's at a time slot that I'm just not there because obviously I'm here right now. And I'm usually prepping for the show at the time that I see her. I watch her occasionally if I think to at a later broadcast time. Ingraham set off an imbroglio Wednesday with a Twitter post mocking Marjorie Stoneman Douglas High School student David Hogg, who, in my inestimable estimation, is eminently mockable. David Hogg wants to put himself out on Front Street. Well, David, what you're learning is that when you do that, you have to be man enough and with sufficient sack no matter what your age, because apparently you're a lot older and a lot wiser than 75% of the United States just ask you. And you need to be listened to because you have so much training, education, and experience that you bring to the issue of gun control. And Laura Ingraham had the temerity to mock you. By the way, he was one of the students who spoke out about gun control prominently since that Valentine's Day shooting at the Parkland, Florida school. Her tweet, Ingraham's tweet, linked to a report noting Hogg had been rejected from 4 California colleges, and she said Hogg whines about the rejections. In response, Hogg posted on social media a list of recent advertisers in her program called from Media Matters. Stop. By the way, Hogg himself, if you're interested, went on a rant about having to take SATs. Apparently, he's so incredibly gifted that he shouldn't have to take SATs because he's so wonderful. And why do we need SATs? He's got a great GPA, a 4 point, whatever the fuck cares about that, because I don't. And he should be able to just naturally get into any school he wants because, after all, he's David Hogg. He's the Gesicht of a new generation. Right? Then there was the strange incident that occurred today, because it's California and strange incidents occur here all the damn time. Some chick decided that she wanted to go to the YouTube campus in San Bruno, California, and kind of shoot it up today with a handgun. And now this update, Her name, the shooter, has been named. She is Nasim Agdam, reportedly identified as the YouTube shooter. The YouTube shooter was identified by multiple news outlets tonight as Nasim Agdam. NBC News said she was a 39-year-old woman whose last known address was in San Diego and whose middle name is Najafi. NBC News reported similarly, citing two law enforcement officials about this information. There's a tweet from ABC News. There's another tweet from ABC News. While she was not a YouTube employee, NBC Bay Area reported that she had a YouTube channel and would frequently use it to post rants against the company. So, to me, this looked personal. And apparently her boyfriend was involved in the incident as well. According to NBC, she accused YouTube in January of 2017 in a video of having discriminated and filtered her content. Well, Nasim, in your death, join the rest of us who have been discriminated and abused by Google, YouTube, Twitter, Instagram, Mamma Jamma, and all the other social media sites that don't care for conservatives as well. Oh, did someone have some bad things to do with you, or did you get removed? Did you have some of your content removed like SHR did? That's odd. SHR didn't go out and shoot people. We didn't go to the YouTube campus and go on a rampage. How weird is that? She continued the theme the next month in a Facebook post. I forgot Facebook. Yes, the oppressive Facebook. In a Facebook post saying there is not equal growth opportunity on YouTube. And guess who this is? Well, let's find out in just a moment. Well, here she is.
Hello.
Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, children of all ages, I am welcoming in a welcoming fashion for all of the welcoming individuals amongst us here on the SHR Media Network. It's the welcome Melanie Colette. And welcome in a welcoming fashion to Melanie. How are you doing this late night, madame? Because after all, let's see, it's 8:15 on the left coast, which means that it's 11:15 on the far east coast where you are, and at 17:45 and 379.825 seconds in Bolivia. So thank you for staying up so darn late. But I always love to talk to you, and damn me for wanting to talk to people live. I mean, maybe in the future, if I were a considerate fat guy, I would record you during the day, and maybe if I want to get you on, I would do that. I would record you during the day when you would probably have more time, and then just play the segment later on at night. And then as you're playing, and you couldn't see it or have anything to do with it, I could maybe make funny faces at you as I'm playing what it is that you have to say. So, but I want to tell you, welcome to the show. I always love talking to you. But before we even go anywhere, because I hope, I pray, I gave you sufficient warning of what it is that I wanted to chat about tonight. But before I even go there,
I don't think that we've discussed that at all, to be honest.
Okay, let me refresh your memory, because I think I contacted you. There's so many ways to contact people now. You
may have told me.
I think I contacted you on Facebook, and I asked that can I pickle your brain with regard to Bitcoin, a cashless society, and sort of a guaranteed income. I don't know if we're going to get to all three of those or not.
Yes,
but anyway,
you did.
Before we do that, I want desperately to ask you to tell everyone where you can be found, where you can be read, where you can be heard, and all of your various social media aspects. Go.
Oh, you're so sweet. Thank you so much. I can be heard right here on SHR Media, Monday through Friday at 5 p.m. Eastern Standard Time and 2 p.m. on the West Coast. Tomorrow night, actually, my guest will be, he's a returning guest. I have him once a month, Michael Fitzpatrick from NCX Group. He's a cybersecurity expert. And there's several podcasts with him on it if you want to check him out regarding cybersecurity and cryptocurrency and all that kind of fun stuff. Also, if you want to follow me on Twitter, at Money Talk Mel, if you're feeling very adventurous, you can follow my political Twitter page, which is at NJGOPDiva.
Okay, you might want to say that one more time, just in case.
At NJGOPDiva is my personal Twitter handle.
Okay.
Is at NJGOPDiva. You can follow me there. At Money Talk Mel is the show. It's the show's Twitter handle. And, of course, the show also has a Facebook page, which is at Money Talk with Melanie. And I'm on, like, every other piece of social media known to man. If you put in Money Talk with Melanie, you will find me.
Cool. Now, for those not in the know, and shame on you, folks, if any of you happen to fall into the not in the know category with regard to Melanie Collette, tell folks what it is that you specialize in. In what topics are you well versed?
We talk a lot about anything that's a financial topic, which really is anything. Many times in a Christian context, it's not necessarily a requirement for my guests to be Christians or anything like that. I certainly have had guests who are not Christians, but we always talk about anything finance, economics, and public policy. But I certainly don't hide the fact that I consider myself to be a Christian conservative. And if that can be infused into the conversation, I always encourage my guests to do so.
Okay,
but that's basically what we talk about.
You're big into business, so you know a lot about money, fiscal instruments, investing. So the topics tonight that I'd like to chat with you about allegedly should be right up your alley, so to speak, with regard to a cashless society, Bitcoin. With regard to Bitcoin, I did a little research on the show, and I have some articles that I'd like to read and go over with you and then get your input and your thoughts about. Because that's another way of being able to tickle your brain and figure out what it is that you think about them. Because it was my understanding that Europe was big into a cashless society, and now I found a couple of articles that it looks like they're starting to become just a bit skeptical about some of that. And then I figure from now until the bottom of the hour, maybe we could chat about Bitcoin. I'd like to perhaps start out there because, as it turns out, I happened to find an article from Breitbart that said why Bitcoin is in a downward spiral. So then, after that, I have a few questions. The article starts out this way. The price of Bitcoin continues to slide, with the decentralized digital currency suffering its most dramatically bearish market movements since 2014. I'm going to go into the article a little bit more, but I have to be, I must be completely honest and upfront, Melanie. I've tried to understand what Bitcoin is, and it's smoke. To me, it's smoke, it's mirrors, it's ether, it's this wafting stuff in the ozone. I don't get it. What Bitcoin is allegedly a currency, and I hear, depending upon the prevailing prairie winds, it's doing really well. And now I'm hearing it's not doing quite so well. Let's just start at the start. Can you please, pretty please, can you tell me what is Bitcoin? How can it be a currency? I don't grok that concept at all.
Okay, so Bitcoin is a type of cryptocurrency. Okay, there actually are several types of cryptocurrency. Bitcoin happens to be one of the ones that's been around the longest, but you also have Ethereum, Litecoin. There actually are about, if I'm not mistaken, about 1,200 different cryptocurrency. Yeah.
Wow.
There's a lot. Yes. There's hundreds of different cryptocurrencies, but Bitcoin is like the most popular one. Okay. Now, where people get lost about what cryptocurrency is like the physical nature of it because it's not something that you can touch, right? Because it's digital. It's described as a digital asset. So it's kind of like, it's very similar to how, many people who bank online, like myself, I very rarely see cash. So kind of just imagine a type of currency where you never saw cash.
Okay.
It's very, you're never going to see the cash. Now, it's based on something called blockchain technology.
Okay.
Now, this is where it gets like kind of hairy.
Right.
Because blockchain technology can be used for a lot of different things, not just cryptocurrency. Blockchain technology is a decentralized technology. It's a network that's all over the world, and it manages databases that records crypto transactions. I know.
Oh,
I'm sorry.
Okay. I swear to God, Melanie, I'm trying. I'm really trying. If there's anybody that can do it, though,
now,
you can. I have faith in you.
But that's what it is. Like, that's the best example I can give you. Now, here are the problem with it. It's been used for the last 10 years. Amazon takes it, Overstock.com. When I was in D.C., I've been in D.C., back and forth to D.C. fairly often, but in D.C. I noticed that they have ATMs with Bitcoin machines.
What?
And one of the things that, oh, yes, absolutely. They have, I'm not kidding, they absolutely do. That's actually when I really thought, you know what, I need to look a little closer at this whole cryptocurrency
What do you get out of the slot? What comes out of the slot?
Well,
anything?
What you do is, no. Well, what happens is you use your card, only it's a digital exchange. Okay. So you put money on your card.
Okay. All right, so it's like
but it's cryptocurrency.
It tanks up a card like a credit card that you can use for disbursement at other businesses?
Yes, absolutely. And there are hundreds of businesses, thousands at this point, that accept Bitcoin and other cryptocurrencies, like ones that you know. Like I said, I know for a fact that Amazon does. I know that Overstock.com does. eBay does. There are tons of businesses that accept Bitcoins and cryptocurrencies as payment. There are people who now are getting paid in cryptocurrency.
Ooh,
believe it or not.
Yeah, I believe it.
Microsoft, I just looked up the list just to see if I could get a better handle on that. But KFC Canada, Playboy, if anyone's interested, Subway, Microsoft, all of these businesses accept cryptocurrency. And I've interviewed a couple of crypto experts who are now accepting payment as cryptocurrency. Now, one of the pluses and one of the minuses of cryptocurrency is that it's not regulated, and the government can't get its greedy, incompetent hands on this currency.
Thank God for one small favor.
Exactly. And so, because the government can't get their little grubby fingers on it and regulate it, that keeps the cost down. And that means that it's a lot faster to use for countries that don't have stable currency markets. These remote islands and places that are not heavily populated. That's where people who are philanthropists can come in and do things rather quickly to help those communities, if you will. Okay. So it's a very exciting thing. Now, as far as the value and the volatility in that market is a whole other animal. It's because it's something that's brand new. It's still trying to find its legs. Now, I will tell you that cryptocurrency may be having its issues. Blockchain technology doesn't. Blockchain technology can be used for a whole bunch of different things, not the least of which is cryptocurrency. So I feel like, like I said, while cryptocurrency can be kind of dicey, the blockchain technology aspect is even more exciting because it's so flexible.
We have about 3 more minutes till the bottom of the hour break. So I'd like to wrap up the bottom of the hour with this question, and then we'll take the break. We'll come back and maybe chat about it a little bit more.
Sure.
But the final question before the break is, okay, here I am. I'm a fat little hairy BZ. I'm an ancient reprobate, and let's say one day I say to myself, I think I'd like to try this Bitcoin stuff, because maybe I'd like to buy some more stuff on Amazon, because that sounds fairly convenient to me. And as the fluffy little furball that I am, packed with hair and whatnot and buttery goodness, now how do I decide that, or where do I go to get Bitcoin? What's my next step to involve myself in Bitcoin?
So what you would have to do is find a platform that exchanges Bitcoins. Like the one that I use is Coinbase, which is down. I just checked my account.
Uh-oh.
It's like, listen, it's like any other long-term investment strategy. That's the misnomer about cryptocurrencies, is that it's a quick hit, get rich quick, that kind of thing. And it's not. It's an investment just like anything else. And just like any other type of investing, you want to make sure that you are diverse in the things that you are investing in. So, I mean, I started out with just Bitcoin, and then after Bitcoin kind of, stopped doing very well, put it that way,
Okay.
I actually diversified my investments and kind of put it in different places. Now I'm just invested in Bitcoin and Ethereum and Litecoin. But my overall portfolio over the last month, I was just looking at, is down about 30%. So that's not awesome.
Holy, that doesn't sound good. Chat room. The chat room asked a very salient question. I thought it was a darn good question. Whiskey Dale said, okay, so Bitcoin, is it influenced by inflation?
Right, I saw that question. And here's the thing. If you're talking about inflation when it comes to cryptocurrency, you're talking about price inflation and not monetary inflation. And of course, it's easy to conflate the two because we're usually talking about cash, which is monetary inflation. It is typically not subject to monetary inflation. Here's the other thing that you need to remember about cryptocurrencies. You have to think of it as similar to the way you think of stocks. When the value goes up, there's always going to be people who you're going to have sell-offs. So, whenever a stock goes down, it's because people just sold their stock. So the value goes down. Same thing happens with cryptocurrency. So Bitcoins, in earnest, are immune to monetary inflation, but not price inflation.
Okay.
Does that make sense?
So it sounds, and this will be the final question because we are going to have to go on the break, but it sounds like it's a currency. You can purchase things from it, but it's also kind of like the stock market because, as you said, you need to, if you're in it, you need to be in it for the long run and not just thinking that you're going to walk into it and just snatch a big bunch of cash and cut a big old hog out of this thing. Is that
that's not going to happen.
Okay.
That's not going to happen. I mean, those days, unless something new or different happens, those days with cryptocurrency are pretty much over as far as the quick hit, the quick turnover. I mean, and like I said, I think that particular area of the market is really trying to get its footing as more and more cryptocurrencies appear in the market. Everybody focuses on Bitcoin, and like I said, a lot of people don't realize that there's like 1,200 other cryptocurrencies out there. So everybody focuses on Bitcoin. But yeah, it's like everything else. As far as you actually investing, you want to find a platform like I said. I use Coinbase, but there are several others. You want to make sure that you check them out and that they're cool because there's a lot of scams out there, which is why the government's like sniffing around right now, thinking about doing some regulating. I've had a guest or two that was supposed to appear on the show, but they were having some some FTC issues.
Oops.
And couldn't. Yeah. You'll notice that, yes, they had to cancel. You'll notice that Facebook has pulled many of their cryptocurrency ads because some of those companies have had some FTC issues. So, there's a lot of, like any other, thing involving money, there are a lot of scams out there. So you really do have to be careful. But Coinbase is pretty solid, and I would highly recommend that. Coinbase, please feel free to send me that check.
Okay, folks, it's time for the break. We're talking to Melanie Colette. She is the money diva. Money Talk with Mel, Monday through Friday, right here on the SHR Media Network. We're going to take a break. Time to go to the electric winkle chamber if you need to. And, folks, we're going to be right back.
Conservative media done right. You're listening to the SHR Media Network.
Featuring right thinking from a left brain and doing the job the American maggots won't. BZ is fundamentally changing America one diaper at a time. Just when safety pin manufacturers are running out of metal for the diapers of the leftists, where the speech is free, but the drinks are not. The bloviating Zeppelin's Berserk Bobcat Saloon can be heard every Tuesday and Thursday night, commencing at 11 p.m. Eastern and 8 p.m. Pacific, where pushback is a requisite art form in and of itself. Let your ossicles be truly liberated when you listen to the bloviating Zeppelin's Berserk Bobcat Saloon, only on SHR Media Network. No ferrets were harmed in the making of this ad.
When dirty politicians, shadow governments, and deceptive Islam blind the world with fake stream media smoke, their only fear is one man with a cane. I'm Dave Milner. Join me through shrmedia.com, highplainstalkradio.com, and the Western Free Radio Network at Spreaker, YouTube, and iTunes for a different perspective weekly on the Unpleasant Blind Guy. And catch me on Jeff Mitchell's EDL Radio on blogtalkradio.com. There's
no surrender ever.
Because truth is not always pleasant.
This is Sam on SHR Media. You can listen to my new show starting on Tuesdays in January. Get my perspective on national politics, a conservative's perspective on California politics, the latest in the war on terror, all of that and a lot more here on Tuesdays at SHR Media. And don't forget to follow me on Twitter at Sam_SHR Media.
Human by race, Christian by faith, American by nationality, and conservative by choice. Reverend Ralph J. Chittum Sr. is the right guy on SHR Media from 8:05 to 9 p.m. Monday through Friday. And if on the rare occasion I am ever wrong, I will still always be right. The right guy on SHR Media.
Beware, the Jersey Takeover is here. Every Monday through Friday, 9 p.m. till 11 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, you can catch Reaver Common Sense Show hosted by Jersey Joe, right here on shrmedia.com. Only Jersey can deliver hell like no one else. So consider this your fair warning.
In a world controlled by corrupt politicians, a team of ordinary men emerge from the ashes to give voice to the voiceless, hope to the hopeless, clues to the clueless. Sackheads Sean, Sackheads Clint, and Sackheads BZ. The Sackheads Radio Show every Wednesday at 8 p.m. Pacific and 11 p.m. Eastern on shrmedia.com. Watch on YouTube, Facebook, and the High Plains Pundit Network. The best in late-night conservative talk, the Sackheads Radio Show, only on the SHR Media Network.
Go ahead, I'll say it. Some of the best A-roll is going to be evil. Like, what are you talking about? You can just, the last question, you can cut a couple seconds. Yeah, I'm a freaking artist. I can't just come up with this shit off the top of my head. Are you freaking kidding me right now?
Hey, good point. Exactly right.
Oh, God. Hey, this is Sackhead Clint, and I'm with Sackhead Sean, Sackhead BZ. No communists allowed on the SHR Media Network.
Damn straight, mister.
Back to the show.
Conservative media done right. You're listening to the SHR Media Network.
Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, children of all ages, welcome back to the Bloviating Zeppelin's Berserk Bobcat Saloon radio show, live and direct right here on the SHR Media Network. You should be listening to shrmedia.com or watching the show on the SHR Media Facebook page or the SHR Media YouTube channel. We're talking to Melanie Collette, the money diva, Monday through Friday right here on the SHR Media Network. We were talking about Bitcoin, a concept that I am still want to wrap my hands around, and I'm still having a little bit of trouble with it. Because if you're in chat room, by the way, folks, if you want to be in chat, I monitor one, count them one, just one single digit chat room, and that's the one over at shrmedia.com. Yes, I'm fully aware. People have told me numerous times that YouTube has a chat room. BZ, why aren't you there? Facebook has a chat room. BZ, why aren't you there? Because I only have 10 fingers, and I have to produce my own doggone show and keep up sort of a semi-cogent, not rantful conversation with all the wonderful guests that I have, including Melanie Collette right now. So you want to chat, go to the shrmedia.com chat room, because that's where I am right now, including Melanie, so thank you very much. In terms of Bitcoin, as we said before the break, it looks like you have to have confidence in it. And, well, hell, that's true of money, because let me ask you, Melanie, the stock market is essentially nothing but what? Emotions?
Gambling.
Mostly,
it's
gambling and emotions. And I've been wanting to ask you this question now for almost a year. Maybe a year and a half. And it doesn't have much to do with Bitcoin, but it popped into my head. And that's this. Are you sitting down? I hope you are.
I am.
Okay. All right. Then you're ready. You're ready for the question. And that's this. Melanie, is there gold in Fort Knox? I want to know.
Oh, you mean enough gold that represents our economy, like back before, I think it was 1970 when they finally took over?
Yeah.
Nah, that's gone.
Honestly, if you and I got a security clearance and we knocked on the door of Fort Knox and they let us in, and as soon as they let us in, we hear, they're here, let them in and let them see everything. And then we walked in, and our little eyes were looking at all these various doors. You really think there isn't any gold in Fort Knox?
I think we would suffer the same fate as Geraldo did when he was looking for Al Capone.
Wow. Wow. To me,
listen, if there's any there, if there is,
okay,
then it is certainly not enough gold to back our cash, which is what it's supposed to be doing.
Right.
Because, listen, not just because of the print happy Fed, over the last 8 years before Trump became president, and really he just put an end to that to quantitative easing a couple of months ago. He didn't it didn't stop immediately. So no, as far as gold backing our cash, that ship sailed many, many moons ago. And, it probably was a mistake. Now, there are people who will tell you that investing in gold is probably the best investment. I know people who swear by investing in metals.
Okay.
I don't fundamentally disagree, because it's something that's tangible. I mean, push comes to shove, it is something tangible. So, I tend to agree with those very smart people. Actually, Mike Fitzpatrick is one of them, and he's a brilliant guy. Who's a big metal person as far as investing. The other only danger about cryptocurrency and the blockchain is that blockchains can break. That's a whole nother issue. You can actually come to the end of a blockchain, and it can break, and that's a problem. The other problem with cryptocurrency, I just want to make sure I mention this as well, is that if there's an EMP, an electronic,
Oh.
I never remember what that
Right.
stands for.
Right.
But if there's
Electromagnetic
an electronic
pulse.
thank you, an electromagnetic pulse, that can pretty much disable everything. And I was listening to a report the other day, basically anything digital. I was listening to a report the other day that said it would take us, we would probably lose 90% of the population if that ever happened, just, from not having access. It's creepy.
Well,
yeah, that's not a good thing.
Because in terms of saving cash, retail, businesses, etc., you can't have, and I'm preaching to the choir, but you can't have a massive warehouse full of stock anymore. You have to keep things so fluid and moving in today's society. You can't afford to have a big warehouse of Billy's widgets. You've got to keep them in motion all the time, or it's not a good thing. So yeah, I can understand why an EMP. Yeah, you're going to have trouble with food, water, transportation, everything.
Now, once the electricity's back up, right, you're good to go with blockchain technology, right? You're good. But then you don't have any material resources to go by. Like, what do you use to barter? And that, of course, transitions into the whole cashless society type things. There are two sides to the cashless society argument. There's the, we can go back to old-fashioned bartering. And listen, on Craigslist, that still happens, or completely cashless. And then we're talking about your Apple Money and your PayPals and all of those systems. And there's tons of those. So,
well, that's you've made an excellent transition in and of itself. Melanie, that was so smooth and seamless. Have you ever thought about having a radio show?
You know what?
You really should. You really should. That was very smooth. I'm just, props from me to you. I'm just saying it as, you're very professional in that regard. Maybe you should get a radio show. Okay, now we're talking about a cashless society. And as you indicated, there are positives to it, there are pluses, and there are minuses. Now, I noticed in an article today, this is from The Guardian in the UK, the quote at the top of the headline said, "Hang on to your cash. This dash to digitize payments is dangerous. Banknotes and coins are a public utility, and companies make no profit from their use. Hence, the drive for cashlessness, and with it, greater surveillance." So right off the bat, would you tend to agree with that? More surveillance, more monitoring?
Yeah, there's pluses. I'm a big convenience girl and I'm a big technology girl.
Mm-hmm.
I rarely ever see my money in cash, and I haven't for years. I mean, there are certain uses for cash. Tipping is good.
Uh-huh.
To have cash for, but like other than at your local adult establishment, drinking establishment, like where else did you really need cash anymore? Now, the other side of that is, there are people who don't have any type of bank account. And, of course, there are a number of reasons for that. The left will tell you it's because of,
they're poor.
Demand and systematic poor and blah, 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 blah. But a lot of times it's because they were shifty and shady with whatever banking transactions they were doing, and now they can't have an account or the popo to pick them up.
Right.
But no matter what the reason is, we have a significant amount of the population that are considered unbanked is the term that they use.
Right.
16 million Americans don't have bank accounts, and they use money orders. And listen, and a lot of landlords and things like that are situated or have properties in those areas tend to want a money order, and you can understand why.
Right.
So the danger of a cashless society is it has the potential to end up being, something that's just for the elite, something that's just for the wealthy, something that's just for the well-to-do. Now, I don't agree with that argument at all, but it's an argument, I guess is how I would put it. Like, I can't imagine a scenario where you don't have some kind of bank account. I mean, they have secure debit situations where you can put money in there and they'll match it or whatever. I mean, so I don't quite understand people who don't have bank accounts, but they exist to the tune of 16 million.
Yep.
So
you're right. Unbanked. I noticed that when I started doing research for this. Here's another interesting little aspect, a tidbit that I discovered in reading articles. One of the reasons that some of the people were positing a cashless society would be bad is, yes, because of the surveillance aspect. The government surveils and can see anything and everything that you do. Every coin, every cent, every dollar, etc., they would be able to trace, track at a moment's notice. The other argument that was made is that to react to inflation or deflation, I read an article which said basically the government can force you in a cashless society to either save or spend. And once I saw that, I didn't quite get all of the intricacies of it, but I thought that is a terrible overlording power given to a government if that's an aspect that happens to be true. Could a government do that in a complete cashless society?
Oh, I think it would be a lot easier to do it in a completely cashless society, certainly. It would be a lot, because now you're talking about keystrokes.
Yes.
At this point.
Yes.
You're not talking about being able to obtain someone's cash, physical cash. Of course, that's a lot harder to reach, but if the entire system is designed on technology and electronics, certainly. And how they would do it, in my estimation, just knowing how nefarious the government is, my thought is they would regulate it so that these companies that are all associated with these cashless entities would be forced to do certain things. They would be forced to set their rates and set their costs in line with whatever the government says, and by default, all of their customers would be subject to that.
Yes.
I mean, that's generally the way they work. They never want to get their own hands dirty. So, that's how they would do it, through, regulating the heck out of it.
The article... I'm sorry, go ahead, ma'am.
No, go ahead.
The article was continuing by saying Sweden leads the world in cashlessness. In doing so, it also leads the world in opening its citizens up to fine-grained financial surveillance. Cashless society is, as you mentioned, Melanie, it's a euphemism for a bank payments society in which every transaction has to be passed through a complex of banks, card companies, phone providers, and payment apps. And what it's doing is granting complete and total financial control by way of financial corporations, control over the entire money system, our everyday economic interactions. They all get logged for some kind of analysis then or later. And they're saying Sweden may end up being the first society in which every private economic action is recorded. Personally, I think that's frightening.
Well, it is frightening, and I'm wondering, what some of the laws are in Sweden and which things are legal and which things are not. My guess is that when people want to do things, I'm wondering if, weed is legal in Sweden, probably. I
would guess.
Because, listen, I would guess so too. There are things that people don't necessarily want the whole world to know that you bought. Let's just put it that way.
Yes.
I personally don't care because I don't do anything, I'm not all that naughty, but for people who are involved, and people's embarrassment threshold is different, right?
Yes. Oh,
Everybody's is different and weird, and to have the government
weird.
I personally don't think anybody's all that concerned about the stuff that I'm buying, but who knows? That might change. But
possible. Yes.
I could see a certain level of discomfort with knowing that at any point, at any time, should they deem it necessary, the government at a few keystrokes can find out everything that I bought. And if anybody's ever used like a finance tracking app, we all know that sometimes that's not entirely accurate. You know, you get those finance tracking apps where they're like, okay, you went there, so this is in this category. You know, you bought this, and this is in that category. Well, the category is not always right. So, you know, there's some dangers there.
Yes, there is.
I would think.
There is. When you talk about, for example, your credit score, let's see, there's three: TransUnion, Experian, and something else that I can't remember. Equifax. Thank you. And if you go in there, number one, you're going to get charged if you go in and tinkering around and looking in the digital room to see what your credit score looks like and how many dings you may have against you. But how frequently do people discover that their credit score is not just inaccurate, it can be way messed up, and yet those three agencies hold sway over whether you're considered to be a valued borrower or not. And if those things are inaccurate and digitized, cash being digitized, anything that's digitized can be hacked. It can be hacked, and that's
the other problem.
That's where
also with cryptocurrency, which we didn't talk about with cryptocurrency, a lot of hacking.
Yep, and that's where the L in me comes out, the libertarian. I'm not a big L libertarian. I'm sort of a little L libertarian because I don't believe in hot and cold running dope, and I don't believe in open borders. But the freedom and the privacy aspect sets the hair on the top of my head, all three of them, straight upright. It really bothers me, the lack of privacy that you would be giving away and so readily granting to a complete cashless society. So one final question about a cashless society before we move on to a guaranteed income and your thoughts on that, because we got about 5 more minutes before the top of the hour. Do you think...
Any thoughts?
I'm sorry, go ahead.
Go ahead, I'm sorry.
Do you think that we, the United States, will we go completely cashless?
If we do, I don't think it's going to be any time soon. I think we are probably a good 20 years away from doing that. And for the reasons that I just mentioned. You know, there's no way in our Constitution, I don't think, to force people to go to a cashless society, and that's what would have to happen. That's something that we would have to force, and I think on its face it's probably unconstitutional.
Okay.
Because you would be telling people that you have to put your money in a specific place, and I don't see that ever happening.
And I could make an excellent argument constitutionally, just as you point out, for something precisely like that. The final topic. Go ahead.
No, go ahead.
There was a mayor, there is, although there's an effort to try to get him recalled. There's a mayor in Stockton, which is a town in California, in the Central Valley, in the San Joaquin Valley. Stockton has some big troubles. Stockton has already gone bankrupt once, and it's kind of on the brink again. They couldn't pay their police department for a while. They were having trouble making various payments, bond payments, etc. And a very young mayor walked into Stockton one day and said, I want Stockton to be the new prototypical city, and I want to get going a guaranteed income in Stockton, California. And, of course, everyone went 210 over 190 and said, no, that's not going to happen, you blithering idiot, you way young puerile dolt. And then there was a recall to try to get the Stockton mayor out. But stop, it's not just in Stockton. There are many countries, I've discovered, in Europe that want to have a guaranteed income. And for those who are not aware of this, a guaranteed income is pretty much what it says. It's an income provided by a government, and in return, the person who is the recipient of the income has to do nothing. Can this work? Is this? I first saw the concept, and of course, it didn't stun me, and likely it didn't stun you to discover. Oh, that's right. Europe is deciding that they're going to go ahead and do this.
And they're doing so well financially, so we should totally follow them. I think that's an awesome idea. they're the bastion of financial stability in Europe. So whatever they're doing, we should definitely chase that.
Well,
and of course, I'm being completely sarcastic.
But on the other hand, if Europe does it, leftists here in the United States, they want to embrace that concept as well and say, hey, look, Europe's doing it. We need to bring that here. Could it work?
Here's what I don't understand. It would be awesome if people weren't like human. Like it would work great if people were robots and not human. I don't see this as being any different from the welfare system. How anxious are people on welfare to get off of welfare? If you're going to up that, are they any more likely, like the whole I've heard about this program, and specifically the one in California,
right.
And the whole idea is that it's going to incentivize people, and they'll be able to buy some stuff, and it'll stimulate the economy. No, that's not what's going to happen. No. People are going to continue to sit on their butts.
You know, the thing that absolutely astounds me, and we got about 3 minutes before the top of the hour break, the thing that absolutely stuns me, and it shouldn't, Melanie, it shouldn't stun me, but it still does, darn me, is leftists still, after this amount of time, they don't get human nature. They don't understand how humans think. They don't understand how, I don't know why how humans can easily rationalize most anything that they do or don't do. I don't get it, Matt.
And I mean, is this guaranteed income going to come along with a required Dave Ramsey course in finance? Is it going to come along with your basic class on budgeting, some kind of information about economics? Are these people going to be monitored closely to make sure that they're not blowing it all on alcohol and whatever? Like, the whole concept is complete buffoonery. Listen, the welfare system's not awesome. You know what we should do is give them more money. Like that? Like, I don't understand the rationale.
Well, you know,
I don't get that.
Just last week, because I picked a hell of a week to stop doing heroin. But last week when I was doing heroin, I kept thinking, you know what would be better than heroin? More heroin. You know what would be better than free cash? More free cash. Good Lord.
Exactly.
Do you not understand the concept, folks?
They don't. They don't.
No.
And like I said, if you're not requiring a budgeting class while you're giving them that money, then forget about it. And requiring that they stick to that budgeting class, because, you know, they're big listeners, people who find themselves in that situation.
Right.
Big ones, because it's not like you can't figure out how to set a budget, because it's not on the internet anywhere. But let's look up Cardi B records instead and not how to budget our money. Like, come on.
Melanie, I have to tell you, this is why I love you. This is why I love having you on the show. The next time that I have you on, I may see if perhaps we can get together and actually pre-record it during the day so that it's not such a PITA for you at night, because now, I mean, it's after the magic witching hour, or it's close to the magic witching hour where you are right now on the East Coast. So finally, number one, Melanie Colette, Money Diva, thank you ever so kindly for being here in the saloon tonight. I really appreciate the time, and I really appreciate that you took the time, the long day time, because that's what you've done. So thank you for that. So finally...
Oh, you're welcome, darling.
Tell folks again where you can be found and read, because the stuff that you speak about, you speak from much education, much experience, and folks, you do need to listen to Melanie Colette. Where can you be found, madame?
Okay, I mentioned the radio show earlier. I did mention that I also freelance write for the Horn News. That's at thehornnews.com. You can just look me up. You'll find my articles there.
Okay. And
I've also done some writing for the Politics. I still do, just haven't submitted anything here recently, but it's there. And, of course, if you want to friend me on Facebook, I have a couple of spots left, maybe 5. It's Melanie Teresa is on Facebook, and, of course, Money Talk with Melanie is my show page, and at Money Talk Mel on Twitter.
Let me also throw this into the mix so folks know that you're a very serious powerhouse in this area. You've been on Sirius, too, as well, have you not?
Yes, I was a regular. The show that I was on was called Patriot Tonight, and it was a series of hosts, like a rotation of hosts, and I was one of the regular hosts for about, 6 months the show was around. It was always designed to be a temporary show, and now Breitbart has the spot. But the archives are still there on Sirius XM and SoundCloud, Patriot Tonight, and a lot of blessed to do really a lot of great interviews and a lot of great work there. It was really exciting, and you never know, I could pop back up on there soon.
Sure.
Just saying.
And I'm just saying that you have to have some pretty darn serious chops to be able to walk your way into the Sirius broadcasting system as well. Folks, you've been listening to Melanie Collette, the Money Diva. She's on right here on the SHR Media Network, Monday through Friday. Madame, thank you. Go Betty bye. Thank you. Bless you. And have a great night. Thank you ever so kindly. I really appreciate the time you took, madam.
Thank you, darling. The pleasure was mine.
All right, take care. Folks.
All right, take care.
Wow. I always love talking to Melanie. She knows everything about the financial situation. If it has anything to do with like business or cash, I'm pretty confident that I can get her on the show, give her a little bit of a heads up as to what the topics, and she can take them and run. And that's how darn good she happens to be. We're going to take a break. We're going to come back, and BZ is going to jump into the politics of the day as you would customarily expect. You are listening to the Bloviating Zeppelin right here live and direct on the SHR Media Network in BZ's Berserk Bobcat Saloon radio show. Don't go away.
You're listening to the SHR Media Network.
Good evening. Broadcasting behind enemy lines in occupied California, the Bloviating Zeppelin's Berserk Bobcat Saloon radio show is featured on the SHR Media Network every Tuesday and Thursday night for 2 hours at 11 p.m. Eastern and 8 p.m. Pacific. Whilst manufacturers are running out of metal for the diapers of the leftists, BZ continues to radically change the world of leftists, one diaper at a time. Stop balancing your checkbooks. Stop cleaning your fish tanks. The Bloviating Zeppelin's Berserk Bobcat Saloon radio show is your magnet for truth, justice, obesity, a darkened studio, and late-night freedom. No United States of America freedoms were abridged in the making of this ad.
Human by race, Christian by faith, American by nationality, and conservative by choice. Reverend Ralph J. Chittum Sr. is the right guy on SHR Media from 8:05 to 9 p.m. Monday through Friday. And if on the rare occasion I am ever wrong, I will still always be right. The right guy on SHR Media.
In a world controlled by corrupt politicians, a team of ordinary men emerge from the ashes to give voice to the voiceless, hope to the hopeless, clues to the clueless. Sackheads Sean, Sackheads Clint, and Sackheads BZ. The Sackheads Radio Show every Wednesday at 8 p.m. Pacific and 11 p.m. Eastern on shrmedia.com. Watch on YouTube, Facebook, and the High Plains Pundit Network. The best in late-night conservative talk, the Sackheads Radio Show, only on the SHR Media Network.
Go ahead, I'll say it.
Some of the best A-roll is going to be B-roll.
Like, what are you talking about? We can just, the last question we cut a couple seconds. Yeah, I'm a freaking artist. I can't just come up with this shit off the top of my head. Are you freaking kidding me right now?
Good point. Exactly right. Oh, God.
Hey, this is Michael Wright.
And I'm Shannon Wright.
Join us for The Right Way with Shannon and Mike, Monday through Thursday from 7 to 9 a.m. right here on SHR Media.
Why are they joining us?
For fun things like sports, politics.
Oh, maybe some news and entertainment?
And all kinds of other things.
Money and recipes and events, all kinds of stuff.
Yeah, so join us Monday through Thursday, 7 to 9 a.m. here on shrmedia.com.
When dirty politicians, shadow governments, and deceptive Islam blind the world with fake stream media smoke, their only fear is one man with a cane. I'm Dave Milner. Join me through shrmedia.com, highplanestalkradio.com, and the Western Free Radio Network at Spreaker, YouTube, and iTunes for a different perspective weekly on the Unpleasant Blind Guy. And catch me on Jeff Mitchell's EDL Radio on blogtalkradio.com. There's
no surrender ever.
Because truth is not always pleasant.
This is Sam on SHR Media. You can listen to my new show starting on Tuesdays in January. Get my perspective on national politics, a conservative's perspective on California politics, the latest in the war on terror, all of that and a lot more here on Tuesdays at SHR Media. And don't forget to follow me on Twitter at Sam_SHR Media.
Beware, the Jersey Takeover is here. Every Monday through Friday, 9 p.m. till 11 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, you can catch Reaver Common Sense Show hosted by Jersey Joe, right here on shrmedia.com. Only Jersey can deliver hell like no one else. So consider this your fair warning.
Hey, this is Sackhead Clint, and I'm with Sackhead Sean, Sackhead BZ. No communists allowed on the SHR Media Network.
Damn straight, mister.
Back to the show.
Conservative media done right. You're listening to the SHR Media Network.
Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, children of all ages, I'd like to make an announcement. 2 announcements. Then we're going to get back to the news and politics. But the first one is my show coming Thursday. Now, you may or may not realize that Jersey Joe has had some issues and has had to deal with some personal things in his life, and that's not left him with the ability to come here and broadcast. Jersey Joe had his show on just before mine, started at 6 p.m. Pacific to 8, and then I started my show 8 o'clock, Tuesdays and Thursdays. Well, Jersey Joe had 2 hours, 6 to 8 p.m. Pacific time, 5 days a week, and Jersey Joe hasn't been on for a while. Jersey Joe wants to come back, but unfortunately, Jersey Joe hasn't been able to, and he's sort of on hiatus. Indefinitely was the word that he used, and I'd like to see Jersey Joe back. But what I did say is that Jersey Joe, because that's his name, I said, Jersey Joe, if you ever want to come back onto my show, you are more than welcome. So I'm going to have Jersey Joe on Thursday night, not tomorrow night. Tomorrow night is Sackheads. We'll get to that in just a moment. But Jersey Joe, if you want to hear him, he's going to be right here in the Saloon this coming Thursday, just 2 nights from now, and we're going to talk to Jersey Joe about all kinds of topics. The politics will be back on, the burner will be turned high, and the heat will be, in fact, on. Wasn't that a Kenny Loggins song, The Heat is On? In any event, I'm going to give you a little bit of a heads up from me to you. If you have ever listened to a Sackheads radio show, tomorrow night's show is the Sackheads show you will want to listen to. I'm going to keep pumping this. And there's a reason you want to listen to tomorrow night's show. I'm not going to tell you what it is. I'm going to let the Sackheads tell you. And it's an important announcement. And like I say, if you want to, if there was ever a Sackheads radio show that you wanted to listen to live, tomorrow night is the show. So be here. Same place, Wednesday, tomorrow night, starting at my time, starting at 8 p.m. Pacific, starting at 11 p.m. Eastern, right here on the SHR Media Network, shrmedia.com if you want to listen to the show, Sackheads, tomorrow night. And if you go to the SHR Media Facebook page tomorrow night. You can watch just like you're doing now. And you can go to the SHR Media YouTube channel tomorrow night for Sackheads, just like you may be doing right now. Both places if you want to watch, shrmedia.com. If you're cleaning your fish tank, balancing your checkbook, going to the electric winkle chamber, and you can't watch what's going on, but still you can do these other things and listen to all the buttery political goodness that you're about to hear after these announcements. So again, tomorrow night, Sackheads radio show, right here in this studio, Studio 5F, or they may change the studio to 1A. I'm not sure. That's up to Sackhead Sean. So just as you're seeing me right here, right here, right now, Sackhead Sean is going to be occupying this spot, and I will be over at my customary spot over there where the light is, because when I'm on, that's what you see in the background. That's where I will be sitting. And then this is where Sackhead Clint sits. And no, I know it looks like Sackhead's Clint is there right now, but that's just a picture of Sackhead's Clint. So don't be alarmed. He's not here right now. So just saying, Sackhead's radio show tomorrow night. You will want to be here. Come and listen and watch live. That's all I got to say about that. We were talking earlier, we just got through speaking to Melanie Collette, she of the Money Diva, Money Talk with Mel. And again, I always have to say this. When I speak to people from the right coast, from the East Coast, and I mean this quite sincerely, anytime I speak to somebody, the show, to me, I find doing a live show is much more responsive, it's much more challenging, and I think it's much more entertaining to listen to, because you really don't know what people are going to say, what kind of off-the-cuff crap people are going to come up with. And so I always, even though people happen to be on the East Coast, and many, maybe most of the interviews that I do with people that are on the show, they're from the East Coast. So when I say this to Melanie and anyone else that I've interviewed, when you live on the East Coast and you take the time to stay up late, because for you, this is darn late, I really appreciate all of my valued guests. And I hope, folks, that you do too. Melanie, a jewel. She is an SHR treasure, and I think you probably know that already. I had been talking about a particular article. We had an incident, a active shooter situation at the YouTube campus in San Bruno, California. YouTube, as you well know, is owned by Google. And the article that I had started reading was they finally found the name of the individual who shot 3 people and then ended up killing herself. It said Nassim Agdam was reportedly identified as the YouTube shooter. And if I can tab down here, according to NBC, she accused YouTube you know, when you're in apps right now, maybe I'm going to go off just on a sidebar rant just for a second, if you don't mind. Just like most of you, I would expect, you have a smartphone. And maybe it's not as bright as this one because it's burning out the camera lens right now and you can't see what the content is. But on a smartphone, you have the ability to go all sorts of websites. And if there's one thing that really pisses me off, it's advertising. But of course, you have to have advertising. But what I've noticed of late is, because you have to have articles that are in a vertical column type shape, have you noticed, or am I the only one that happens to notice, as you're reading the content and there's an ad coming up and you're scrolling down, and as you come to the ad, it forces you to stop, and you do this with your finger. You make a rapid vertical movements, and the damn thing won't move. And it stays right there on the damn ad for at least a second or two. And I have to ask, I think it's purposeful. Do you guys think it's purposeful? Because I was wanting to get to the content right here, and there's an ad about, I'm not going to say what it's about. There's the car and a trailer, and I can't get past the damn thing to be able to read the article to you. According to NBC, she accused YouTube in January 2017 in a video of having discriminated and filtered her content. And as I said earlier, Oh, boo fucking who? That's so sad. Join the rest of the conservatives who have had their content discriminated against and filtered. And even though sackheads, SHR Media, that's happened to us on YouTube. That's funny. You didn't see us going to any place in the Bay Area or San Francisco and start firing weapons at people. We just didn't do that. She continued the theme the next month in a Facebook post saying there is not equal growth opportunity on YouTube. So apparently she was upset the way YouTube handled whatever it is, whatever kind of content she said. The attacker, who had not been officially identified, wounded 3 people at the YouTube campus in San Bruno before killing herself. One of the 3 victims, a male still in critical condition Tuesday night, had been identified as the attacker's boyfriend and the intended target. So this apparently was very, very personal. 2 other people suffered gunshot wounds, and a 4th person was taken to the hospital with an ankle injury suffered in the panicked evacuation. And 2 law enforcement officials happen to name her. They're investigating the shooting as a domestic dispute and not as an act of terrorism. So despite whatever it is that you think that you may be able to connote out of the name, this is indicating, and I'm absent any other information, I'm just going to have to go along with that and say it's apparent that it's not a terroristic issue. Now, there's another issue that just came up, and I found this kind of interesting today. You may think this just a bit odd, but I'm going to actually give Robert Mueller props right now. And you may say to yourself, BZ giving any kind of prop whatsoever to Robert Mueller? Yeah, I am. If there's one thing that he's done is keep himself out of the media and himself off of Front Street, which is what you do if you conduct an investigation, unlike Jim, James, Brian Comey, who's just written a book, by the way, who can't seem to take his 6'8" self off Front Street because, after all, it's all about Jimmy. It's the Jimmy Show, and now Jimmy has a book. Robert Mueller doesn't have a book. Well, what the hell? Who knows? He may have one later when this is all done and gone. And it will be done, and it will be gone. It just seems as though it's continuous and endless. But in any event, I have to give Robert Mueller props for keeping his big fat face, his hang-dog jowly face, out of the news, unlike Jim Comey. Now, that having been said, here's an article from the Chicago Tribune, and the headline is, Mueller told Trump's attorneys the president remains under investigation but is not currently a criminal target, which I find very interesting, because you can read that a couple of ways. You can read that as entirely, it's just a little factoid, or you can read that in a threatening fashion, which is possibly how it was meant. Special counsel Robert Mueller III informed President Donald Trump's attorneys last month that he's continuing to investigate the president, but does not consider him a criminal target at this point, according to 3 people familiar with the discussions. In private negotiations in early March about a possible presidential interview, Mueller described Trump as a subject of his investigation into Trump's interference in the 2016 election. Prosecutors view someone as a subject when that person has engaged in conduct that is under investigation, but there is not sufficient evidence to bring charges. So the question remains, and I'll leave this up to you to make the determination. I think I just told you what I think of it. I think it's an implied threat, perhaps not a directly expressed threat, but politically speaking, because Mueller really hasn't said much himself about the investigation. And though Assistant Attorney General Rosenstein just gave Bobby Mueller more authority to go digging deeper into Paul Manafort now, I'm sure you heard about that a little bit earlier yesterday. I can draw no other conclusion than that. Now, that having been said, it all ties together. I've wrapped it up a couple of times, a number of times, actually quite a number of times. Hillary Clinton paid for an investigation on an associate of Donald Trump in order to stymie his presidential campaign and then to paint him with as bad a brush as possible, and in my estimation, having paid for a dossier that was patently false, proffered to the FBI, which the FBI, after having a first warrant refused from a FISA court to get to Trump, then took the specious and full of bullshit dossier from Michael Steele and GPS Fusion, or Fusion GPS, and acquired a FISA warrant, the FBI did, behind bullshit. And it pleased Hillary Clinton, and it was started long before the serious campaign portion of the president, and also continued, in my opinion, after the president was not just nominated, but when he was actually sworn in, it still continued. Now we're discovering, had Hillary Clinton been elected, none of these things would have come to the light of day. That should be a frightening enough aspect of the situation. What I think we're going to ultimately find out is that the only collusion that really occurred is between the Democrats, leftists, and the American media maggots, and Russia and or other aspects of that nature, and not Trump or his campaign. Editorial over. Now, tariffs. There have been tariffs levied recently, and the U.S., here's an article that says the U.S. tariff list aims at technology, and China vows that it will respond in kind. Now, stop. I happen to believe, I am of the opinion that tariffs, waylaid by President Trump, they've tried everything else. Why not try a tariff? China has been essentially given free rein. They're like free-range chickens, only they're a free-rein trading company, a trading country, I should say. And only until now have any limitations been placed on them, and of course they're multiply pissed. China vows it will respond. The list includes products from semiconductors to flamethrowers. China says it will respond with the same intensity and scale, which is kind of interesting. And here is why. If China thinks that it's so incredibly independent, the answer to that is actually no, it's not. China relies a great deal on us purchasing their products, and from Taiwan as well. We sell products to China, not quite as many. So if anyone is going to be hurt in a tariff war, if you could call it that, if you want to use that nomenclature, my opinion is that it's going to be China more than it is the United States. China's just pissed off that for the first time, Donald John Trump, the guy with the dead orange cat on his head, possesses the gall to place strictures on China. It's never been done before, and they're not happy. The U.S. proposed imposing 25% tariffs on about $50 billion worth of Chinese-made products, focusing on high-tech items from semiconductors to lithium batteries. China condemned the move and said it will respond on an equal scale against U.S. products. This level is appropriate, both in light of the estimated harm to the U.S. economy and to obtain elimination of China's harmful acts, policies, and practices. The U.S. Trade Representative's office said in a report on Tuesday, the U.S. is targeting 1,300 product lines to try to force China to change its intellectual property practice. The office said it's been China for years, in summary, that's been eating our lunch on its on the business angle, on the trade angle. It keeps going and going. So, yes, I would say we've tried it the other way with all the other presidents. Let's try it this way with some tariffs and see how that goes. We know how it went. Let's see how it's going to go in the future. This is interesting. Who would you say, if you had to guess, the recent walkouts, the student walkouts, and the student-led protests, and the national walkouts, if you had to surmise who's behind these walkouts, who would you guess? There's TruePundit.com, who has the huevos to actually suppose they know. It's been exactly 1 month since the deadly school shooting, which killed 17 people in Parkland, Florida. Today, thousands of students and teachers walked out of their classrooms. This is from a week ago. In order to raise awareness about gun violence and school safety. Who organized that event, would you guess? Was it David Hogg, the guy, the 16 or 17-year-old kid who, just like James Bryan Comey, likes to have his face everywhere and is revered as a little god? A little Hitler minus the funny stash. And David Hogg, you put yourself out on Front Street, so I don't mind commenting about a 17 or 16-year-old as well. When you expose yourself nationally and seek and crave the attention, if you happen to get slings and arrows, so fucking be it. You put yourself there. No one else did. Isn't that odd? Who organized this event? Was it David Hogg and his little merry band of underage gun control freaks? For the first time in a month, they didn't have anything to do with it. The big walkout, in fact, was led by the Women's March, a movement with close ties to the likes of Louis Farrakhan. You know, if I had a producer, my producer would have come back and said, and I would have been able to do, with the likes of Louis Farrakhan. But I don't have a producer, and that's not how it happened. The anti-Semitic hate group leader, the Jihad Against Trump, declaring Linda Sarsour and Farrakhan's dubious devotees, Carmen Perez and Tariqa Mallory. So if you wanted to know, hey, who's behind all that stuff? Is it those kids? No, it's not. Now to a story that's been getting national news. It's one of, in my opinion, one of the most bizarre stories, and I think we may actually have what I consider to be some valid information back finally on this story. It's quizzical, it's weird, it comes from the land of fairies and moonbeams and purple skies, and it's just when you finally realize leftist central isn't all as wonderful as perhaps all these little leftists would have you believe. It's time to take a brief break, and we're going to monetize the crap out of my show. No, that's a lie. No, we're not. This is the final break, and we're going into the final segment right here on the Bloviating. Okay, be quiet. That's not funny at all. You didn't laugh, did you? This is the final segment of the Bloviating Zeppelin's Berserk Bobcat Saloon. Go nowhere.
Conservative media done right. You're listening to the SHR Media Network.
Hey, it's Sean from the Sackheads Radio Show. Also one of the owners here at the SHR Media Network. Are you opinionated? Have you ever wanted to do your own show? Have you ever heard somebody like the Sackheads and go, yeah, I could probably do that better? Well, now's your chance. Send me a 5-minute clip at sackheadsradio@gmail.com, and maybe you can be part of the SHR broadcasting team. sackheadsradio@gmail.com.
It's your business diva here, Melanie Collette. I am inviting you to a front row seat as I discuss some of the most intriguing details of wealth and finance with today's movers and shakers in the world of business. Listen in and discover financial truths on a global, domestic, and household scale. Uncover topics that will impact your wallet today and in the future. Money Talk with Melanie airs Monday through Friday, 5 p.m. East, 2 p.m. West, right here on SHR Media and High Plains Pundit Talk Radio. You can't afford to miss it.
Beware, the Jersey Takeover is here. Every Monday through Friday, 9 p.m. to 11 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, you can catch Reaver Common Sense Show hosted by Jersey Joe, right here on shrmedia.com. Only Jersey can deliver hell like no one else. So consider this your fair warning.
Hey guys, this is Sean from the Sackheads Radio Show. Check us out every Wednesday, 8 p.m. Pacific on the SHR Media Network.
And this is Sackhead Clint as the best-looking one of the bunch. It's my duty to remind you to check us out on our YouTube channel.
And don't forget to check us out on the SHR Media Facebook page. The best-looking one? Really? You going to go there?
Well,
Every Wednesday, 8 p.m. Pacific, right here on the
listener's
SHR
Voter's Choice.
Media
I have the award
Network.
right here.
Human by race, Christian by faith, American by nationality, and conservative by choice. Reverend Ralph J. Chittum Sr. is the right guy on SHR Media from 8:05 to 9 p.m. Monday through Friday. And if on the rare occasion I am ever wrong, I will still always be right. The right guy on SHR Media.
This is Sam on SHR Media. You can listen to my new show starting on Tuesdays in January. Get my perspective on national politics, a conservative's perspective on California politics, the latest in the war on terror, all of that and a lot more here on Tuesdays at SHR Media. And don't forget to follow me on Twitter at Sam_SHR Media.
When dirty politicians, shadow governments, and deceptive Islam blind the world with fake stream media smoke, their only fear is one man with a cane. I'm Dave Milner. Join me through shrmedia.com, highplainstalkradio.com, and the Western Free Radio Network at Spreaker, YouTube, and iTunes for a different perspective weekly on the Unpleasant Blind Guy. And catch me on Jeff Mitchell's EDL Radio on blogtalkradio.com. There's
no surrender ever.
Because truth is not always pleasant.
Hey, this is Michael Wright.
And I'm Shannon Wright.
Join us for The Right Way with Shannon and Mike, Monday through Thursday from 7 to 9 a.m. right here on SHR Media.
Why are they joining us?
For fun things like sports, politics.
Oh, maybe some news and entertainment?
And all kinds of other things.
Money and recipes and events, all kinds of stuff.
Yeah, so join us Monday through Thursday, 7 to 9 a.m. here on shrmedia.com.
Broadcasting behind enemy lines in occupied California, a mere 2 miles from the state capital, the bloviating Zeppelin's Berserk Bobcat Saloon radio show can be heard every Tuesday and Thursday night at 8 p.m. Pacific and 11 p.m. Eastern, only on the SHR Media Network. Go to shrmedia.com to listen. You can also watch on the SHR Media Facebook page and the SHR Media YouTube channel. No goldfish were abused in the making of this ad.
Hey, it's Sean from the Sackheads Radio Show.
Hey, it's Sean from the Sackheads Radio Show.
And Sackheads BZ.
Wait, I'm Sean.
No, I'm Sean.
All right, listen, we'll figure this out every Wednesday night, 8 p.m. Pacific, right here on the
Where the hell is Clint?
On the SHR Media Network, www.shrmedia.com. Check us out on Facebook and YouTube. Now, right back to this amazing show right here on the SHR Media Network.
You're listening to the SHR Media Network.
Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, children of all ages, this is the final segment of the Bloviating Zeppelins, that's me, Berserk Bobcat Saloon radio show live and direct from the SHR Media Network studio. It really is a studio 2 miles away from the veritable belly of the beast. I'm broadcasting behind enemy lines in occupied California so that you don't have to. Okay, that's not funny either. Let's move on to what I quantify as one of the strangest stories about kind of a strange family who ended up in one of the strangest fashions you can possibly think of. That's the Hart family. And perhaps you're wondering, BZ, okay, who's the Hart family? Let's go back a little bit, about a week or so. If you remember the family, that I think there were 8 kids, 8 people in this SUV. And it went over the cliff in Mendocino County off Highway 1. Highway 1 runs north and south, right on the coast of California. And it runs from the Oregon border all the way down to Southern California. But it's the best thing is Highway 1, if you've ever been there, Highway 1 is absolutely gorgeous. And it really is one of the best things in California because the California coastline is still a gorgeous spot. And that's what it breaks my heart to think that I'm going to have to leave this state because many, many places in California, they really are beautiful. And leftists are one piece at a time destroying not only the state, but they're managing to destroy themselves as well. This is the family that somehow managed to careen in an SUV on Highway 1 off the roadway and down about 100 feet or more into the California coastline. And it went partially into the water and partially onto the rocks below. The entire family was killed. And for the longest time, people couldn't figure out, how did this happen? What kind of a strange accident occurred in which an entire family, a new family, if you would say, and I'll get to that in just a moment as to how I quantify it as a new family, and they're all dead. And it seemed just an accident, except the first thing that caught my eye in an article was they could find no skid marks. And even with ABS, you would find skid marks where at any particular given speed, a fairly decent speed, you would still find skid marks from ABS pulsing the brakes, and then they lose traction for a while. They gain traction, they gain rolling friction. I taught that for years for EVOC, sliding friction and rolling friction between the tires and the surface, the pavement, whatever the vehicle happens to be traveling upon. And you would still be able to tell if the vehicle had ABS, almost all vehicles do now, if the brakes had been applied. And they found no skid marks or no apparent ABS activations. Once I read that, I thought, No. There people are saying this is the quintessential new family. And when the American media maggots say that it's the quintessential new American family, I don't know. The bells and klaxons and all the whistles activated in my brain when I saw that. And no skid marks in an accident involving a vehicle that went over a cliff on the California coastline and ended up below, about 100 feet or so below, because when you're on Highway 1, there are many sections of Highway 1 that are extremely precipitous just like that. I mean, off the cliff, and the ocean is directly below. Beautiful, but very deadly sometimes. All the hairs on the back of my neck went up when I started reading this story, and the information was not yet in. Now, here's an article. And this is from news.com. And this is why I go to many news sources. I just don't go to United Snakes News. I go to news all around the world because frequently you can get a much better perspective and all the facts from news sources not inside the United Snakes. And this is one of them. This is from an Australian news source. The headline, Lesbian Mums Jennifer and Sarah Hart, who drove family off cliff, had violent history. The mums who drove over the edge of a cliff with their adopted kids in the car were reportedly investigated for, hope you're sitting down for this, for starving them, and one had been convicted for hitting their daughter. Wait, this is the family that leftists were holding out as being, this is the ideal new family. Apparently holes in that story. The mums who fatally veered off a California cliff with at least 3 of their 6 adopted kids were being investigated for starving their children before Monday's crash, and one was previously convicted of domestic assault for hitting their little girl, according to news reports. The New York Post reports that police say they still have no evidence Jennifer and Sarah Hart deliberately drove their SUV off the road, but have noted that there were no skid or brake marks where the vehicle went over. That's odd. Just as I indicated, 3 of the kids' bodies have been found, while the others, including 15-year-old Devonite, whose image went viral when he was photographed tearfully hugging a white cop at a 2014 Ferguson protest, he remains missing. The Hart's Washington state neighbors say that they'd recently called Child Protective Services after Devonite kept showing up at their house claiming his parents weren't feeding them and were punishing them by withholding food, and asked them to leave food by the fence so his parents wouldn't know. The Oregonian reports. Officials said they'd tried unsuccessfully to reach the family 3 times to investigate, but the neighbors say the family fled when a CPS worker showed up at their door this past Friday. That would be last Friday. The next morning, when we saw that the vehicle was gone, and then Sunday morning, when it was still not there, we figured something was off, said Bruce DeKalb, and he told a local CBS or NBC affiliate. Last year, one of the Hart's daughters also rang their doorbell at 1:30 a.m. accusing her mom, or her moms, plural, of abuse. She was at our door in a blanket saying that we needed to protect her, Bruce DeKalb said. She said that they were abusing her. It wasn't the first time they'd heard charges of abuse, and it wasn't the first time that the family had faced charges of abuse. In 2011, when the family was living in Minnesota, Sarah Hart pleaded guilty to domestic assault after their then 6-year-old daughter told her teachers that she has owies on her tummy. And this is the ideal leftist family, held up as the perfect example of the new modern family. When the teacher lifted up the child's shirt, she saw the girl had bruises across her stomach and back, the TV station reports. Sarah Hart told police that she was spanking the child and let her anger get out of control. Now, I happen to be looking at a photograph of the scene where the SUV went off the ocean, and I'll describe it to you. Highway 1, there's a little bridge, maybe about 100 feet long. And you can see that the ocean is directly adjacent, Highway 1. And then there's a bit of an asphalt turnout because there are trucks and slow vehicles on Highway 1. And theoretically, they should be able to take the turnout, vehicles pass, and they keep on going. Well, there's a paved turnout, and it's apparently through this turnout. The turnout appears to be maybe 75 to 100 feet deep. And it looks like at this turnout, that's where the vehicle went over and then plunged off the cliff. There are rocks below, and a little bit further out, there is the cascading and crashing ocean out there. So the car did not apparently crash directly into the Pacific Ocean itself. The story continues. She took the girl into the bedroom and bent her over the edge of the bathtub. The criminal complaint says Hart received a 3-month suspended jail sentence and a year of probation, according to the Oregonian. The Harts later moved to Oregon and began homeschooling their brood, but relocated to rural Woodland, Washington last year after Devonite's viral image brought heavy media scrutiny on their family, including the 2011 abuse charges the paper reports. This is, again, very indicative because I happen to work the Child Abuse Bureau for the Sacramento County Sheriff's Department, and this is part and parcel of a child under duress, stress, and abuse, attempting the family to take the family away from the spotlight. The Harts moved to Oregon, began homeschooling their children, and because their one child brought scrutiny to the family and information about the 2011 abuse charges, they moved again. A neighbor, a former Oregonian neighbor, said the kids rarely went outside, even in nice weather. And this is a telling tale. This is someone who's actually verbalizing what they were seeing. Something just didn't seem right. They were very isolated in the home, said a neighbor. The bodies of Jennifer and Sarah and their kids, Marcus, 19, Jeremiah, 14, and Abigail, 14, were all found with the family vehicle when it was spotted off the coastal highway in Northern California on Monday. Hannah, 16, and Sierra, 12, were missing alongside Devontae. These are called clues. Well, there happened to be another story. This is more recent. This is from the Statesman Journal in Oregon. Fatal heart family crash appears intentional, CHP says. And again, this is the family that leftists would hold up. This is the new modern family. A family that people should emulate. The new type of family. Devante has two mommies, so to speak. Well, that's the headline. The article goes like this. We do have reason to believe that the crash was intentional. This is all based on preliminary information, said Greg Bartz, acting assistant chief for CHP Northern Division. The story initially said Jennifer Hart was driving the SUV. Greg Bartz, acting assistant chief for CHP Northern Division, said he could not speculate as to which woman was driving the vehicle. And this is from Westport, California. The California crash that killed a Washington married couple, as well as at least 3 of their adopted children, appears intentional, according to the California Highway Patrol. Greg Bartz, acting assistant chief for CHP Northern Division, confirmed the speedometer of the Hart's family SUV, which was found crushed at the bottom of a California roadside on Monday, March 26th. The speedometer was pinned at 90 miles an hour, but Bartz cautioned that finding is not conclusive because a full investigation still needs to be conducted. It was documented at the time of the crash the vehicle was pinned on or traveling at 90 miles an hour. The information is not conclusive or factual. The speedometer could have moved at impact or somehow was manipulated. Depending upon, I should point this out, and you should be aware of this, there are now, of course, as you well know, computers in all the automobiles, and they're like an ENG camera, an electronic news gathering camera. You should be aware that all actual ENG, electronic news gathering cameras that you see at crime scenes, etc., by journalists, etc., these things are always on. They're hard disk driven. And what I mean by that is when the journalist or the individual pulls the button, activates the camera, it captures and is continuously capturing, depending upon the manufacturer, anywhere from 5 to 10 to 15 seconds of take prior to the actual touching of the button itself to activate the camera. So in other words, when you think that you're not being recorded by an ENG camera, you're being recorded by an ENG camera. And that's true with the computers that are in most of the vehicles today. And the story goes like this. If CHP wants to get the information about all the various readouts, like a flight recorder on an aircraft, you can do that. And it can be gotten from your car, my car, and frequently they are done when the crash is of sufficient import that they consult the manufacturer or the dealer to get the information and pull it out of the automobile, which is what they're going to do. And it reports all sorts of things like throttle input, brake input, the true speed, depending upon the sophistication of the model itself, even G-forces involved, rate of acceleration, rate of deceleration. If it's an input that can be made into the vehicle, most vehicles now capture that information for accident investigators. Initially, it was for the vehicle manufacturer itself. Then the insurance companies found out, hey, we can go in there and find that information too. But there has to be a reason. It must be causal. So now it appears the odd leftist family that was idyllic, sadly, unfortunately, and it is quite sad, wasn't exactly so idyllic at all. A very sad situation. Maybe I should have featured this at the beginning of the show, because I find this to be a happy story. If you remember last week, I talked about President Trump when he visited the border, speaking to a border agent who was telling him about a piece of metal that resulted in border crossings from Mexico to the United States going down 95%. And what did I mean by that? A Border Patrol agent, while not getting any support whatsoever, managed to find a piece of corrugated metal, placed it in a particular area where folks were going through, illegals were going through, like a freeway, and it dropped crossings 95%. The piece of metal cost that agent absolutely nothing. And you wonder if a border wall works. Well, I found the audio where the president speaks to the Border Patrol agent, and he tells the president a story.
If you could, Lance, the president is speaking at the moment, and let's listen in.
I started here in 1992. And what was it like until you built the wall? And the wall, by the way, is that wall up there, which is just sheet metal, but still at least it works a little bit. How was it before you built the wall? So there was effectively no border in San Diego. It was a chaotic situation. This fence behind me, it was made out of scrap metal that the military wasn't using, that we set in place to really just delineate the border once again. You needed something. And it changed our environment. We went from, we decreased the illegal cross-border traffic by 95% with that fence and the roads and the lights and the technology. So that's 95% with a scrap metal wall that they just put together with excess material. And it worked 95%. And that wall they can get over very easily. These walls they can't. But, you know, for the people that say no wall, if you didn't have walls over here, you wouldn't even have a country. You wouldn't even have a country. And by the way, the state of California is begging us to build walls in certain areas. They don't tell you that. And we said, no, we won't do it until we build the whole wall. But there are certain areas, as you know, where they're really wanting us to build a wall. And because the people are complaining, people are pouring in.
This is funny, and I said this, I believe it was last Thursday when I was talking to Dan Butcher. And that's this, and Dan was in chat, and thank you for that, Dan. We already mentioned that in El Paso, Texas, by building a wall in El Paso, it reduced crossings and subsequent crime by a massive percentile, again indicating that a wall works. A wall works. Ask Israelis. A wall works. It's not illegal to protect your sovereignty, though leftists would have you believe it. A wall works. A piece of metal works. Can you imagine the efficacy? El Paso, Texas, a wall works. Can you imagine the efficacy of a wall 900 miles, 1,000 miles, consistently purchased and built and in place? And why is it, you have to ask yourself, why is it that leftists, Democrats, and the American media maggots are so absolutely strident against a wall? And I've said it before. Once a wall is up, it's like an entitlement. You're going to play hell trying to get it down, and they all realize that. Once it's up, it ain't coming down.
So, you know, they don't talk about that. Do you have a preference here, sir? Well, I do have a preference. The problem is you have to have see-through. You have to know what's on the other side of the wall. And, I mean, a preference is something like that. The problem is you don't know what's on the other side of the wall. And if you don't know what's on, I mean, you could be 2 feet away from a criminal cartel and you don't even know they're there. Now, we have equipment to take care of that, X-ray equipment, etc., but if you're on that side of the wall, that's the hardest wall to scale. It's got a lot of assets. The problem is, tell them, what do you think about the important...
And the funny thing about that is, now, today, and in my opinion, doggone it, I could have led with this, with happy stories again. But again, thanks to Melanie Collette, I would much rather have listened to Melanie than this story, but I'm going to tell you now just before we go away. We got about another 3 minutes before the end of the show, and I consider this to be a happy story, and that's this from the Washington Times. Trump says he'll guard Mexican border with military. President says, this is wonderful. In my opinion, this is absolutely wonderful. President says caravan of illegals crossing Mexico is broken up. President Trump said Tuesday that the caravan of illegal immigrants heading from Central America to the U.S. has been broken up in Mexico, potentially heading off a major headache for American officials. What I think people realized, and it's been coming out now, is that some of the Mexicans and some of the illegals, they're not from Mexico, either Honduras or El Salvador. I'm not quite sure. I think mostly Honduras. They've kind of split off, and Mexico has decided to take a few of them. I've just heard the caravan coming up from Honduras is broken up, and Mexico did that, Mr. Trump says, saying Mexico bowed to pressure from the U.S. to take action. There was no immediate independent confirmation from Pueblos Sin Fronteras, the group organizing the caravan, nor from Mexican officials. But on Monday, the Mexican government said it had taken steps to deport I'm mistaken, to deport about 400 people who were part of the Via Cruz Migrantes caravan. You like that accent? Really cool, huh? Which organizers claim totaled 1,500 people, mostly Hondurans, who were looking to reach the U.S. Stop. By the way, does anybody realize that 1/3 of the Hondurans already happen to live in the United States of America? And so we're expected to take everyone in the world? No. This is the buttery political goodness part. Mr. Trump also said that he has spoken to Defense Secretary Jim Mattis about deploying the military on the border, a move that would test the limits of U.S. laws, which generally restrict American troops from conducting police actions inside the country. We're going to be guarding the border with our military. That's a big step, Mr. Trump told reporters. He didn't say what the military would be tasked with doing, but he'll have to watch the limits placed on U.S. troops by the Posse Comitatus Act, signed into law in 1878, which generally prohibits troops from being used in policing. Nevertheless, Mr. Trump, Donald John Trump, the guy with the dead orange cat on his head, has been doing much more for the United States of America. He and I, we don't see completely eye to eye, but I'll tell you what, he is turning D.C. upside fucking down.
Monsieur has unlocked! We'll meet again. Don't know where, don't know where, but I know we'll meet again some sunny day.
Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, children of all ages, thanks for listening to the Bloviating Zeppelin's Berserk Bobcat Saloon radio show, live and direct, broadcasting behind enemy lines in occupied California, right here on the SHR Media Network. If you want to contact me, you can go to my website, bloviatingzeppelin.net. I'm on Twitter at BZEP, BZEP. My original intro music is by Possessed Tranquility. You can find them at ReverbNation.com. Promotional consideration by the Lockheed Martin Skunk Works, and by Boeing, if it ain't Boeing, I ain't going, and by Pratt & Whitney, fine aircraft engines, thrust you can trust. And also thanks to my personal KC-135 Kettle One refueling team, with whom I will be consorting in less than an hour. Thanks to Melanie Collette for being here in the saloon tonight. Thanks to you for listening live. Folks, listen to the Sackheads radio show tomorrow night, right here on the SHR Media Network. Sackheads tomorrow night. God bless. Take care. Be safe.
Everybody quiet down now and get some sleep.
Good night, everybody.
Good night, Mama. Good night, Ben.
Good night, everyone. Good night, Mama. Good night, Daddy.
Good night, children. Good night, Daddy. Good night, Elizabeth.
Good night, John Boy. Good night, Jim Bob. Good night, Jim Bob.
Good night, Jim Bob.
What's going on? I was asleep. What's everybody doing?
Good night.
Good night, Jim Bob. Go to sleep.
Good night, and good luck.